All right, everybody. Welcome to Fantasy Football Live with the Fantasy Sports Boss. But we're not doing football today. We are doing the NCAA tournament. All right. So we're going to be doing bracketology for the NCAA tournament, the 24 NCAA tournament. And got a lot of good stuff for you. And anybody that's new to the channel would, really, you look at the name, you see fantasy sports bar, fantasy football, all this other stuff. While 99.9% of the channel is directed toward fantasy football, we do have college basketball, NCAA tournament stuff that we do as well leading into the tournament, which is what today is, bracketology. So we're going to be doing bracketology today, going through the bracket, going through all of the systems and hey Justin, how are you? All of the systems, all the trends that have allowed me to have a lot of success in the NCAA tournament and in NCAA pools. I've 2 of the last 4 years, I've been in the top percentile of the ESPN Bracket Challenge. So, I do have a lot of good stuff that I'm going to share with you guys tonight. It's going to be very involved. I'm going to be throwing a lot of numbers at you. So you're probably going to need a pen and a paper to write all this stuff down, because like I said, it's going to be a lot of minutia, a lot of numbers, a lot of teams being thrown at you. So make sure you write this stuff down, because it's quite a bit. So going to do this in three parts. And I'm sorry about the darkness of the stream, guys. Of course, the light video that I use for the stream, of course, blows out right before I come on here. So I apologize for that. Hey, Justin, how are you? Both Justins. So I'm sorry that's a little dark, but you're not here to see me anyway. You're just here to hear the information, how to pick your winner, your final four, and also how to pick the upsets in the first round. So I have all of these things that I'm going to share with you guys tonight. Now, as far as the bracket itself is concerned, I thought it was fair. I mean, listen, we had a lot of, bracket bid busters, if you will, or bid stealers with Oregon and NC State, Florida Atlantic losing. So that really pushed down the Oklahomas, the Seton Hall, St. John's. That one hit kind of close to home because my pops is a St. John's alum. So that kind of sucked, St. John's not getting in there. But overall, I thought it was fair. Now, looking at all of the regions, UConn is the number one team, but their region, I think, is the toughest. I mean, you have the Auburn, you have Illinois, you have Iowa State. You have three teams there that won conference tournaments, all in that same region as UConn. Now, I know UConn's pretty much going to have home court advantage through the into the Final Four there, but still, I thought that was a really tough bracket for them. I do think that the bloodbath bracket is going to be the Midwest, because you have Tennessee in there and Purdue, two teams that historically tend to go out early. You have an injury-riddled Kansas. You have Creighton that just got knocked out in their first conference tournament game. There's a lot of negativity that goes along with that. So that to me looks like the bloodbath region out of the four. And then you have NC, North Carolina, Arizona. I think that's a pretty manageable bracket there in terms of the West. And then you have the South with Houston, the reeling Houston, coming in off of that just embarrassment against Iowa State. And I think it's going to be tough sledding for them. And I'm going to get into why I'm not a fan of Houston going forward. Now, again, I'm going to start with picking the national champion. All right. And this is pretty straightforward for me, because I feel very strongly that UConn is going to repeat, and I'm not alone. I mean, the majority, I would say, in any, fairly deep bracket pool, 70%, maybe even higher, are going to pick UConn to win it all. So this is one of those years where I really do think it's the rest of your Final Four that's going to determine your success in your bracket pool. All right, because I think UConn is just such a good team. UConn can beat you in so many different ways, whether it's defensively, they can shoot the lights out from deep. I mean, UConn has just so many different avenues to beat them that I think they're absolutely the team to beat. But, if you're like me, you like to throw a bracket in there that has somebody else, just in case UConn loses. Because remember, Kentucky, that unbelievable Kentucky team 10 years ago, losing to Wisconsin, and that to me, that was the shocker of all shockers. So it just shows you that any team can be beat. I mean, that Duke team with Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish, that team, of course, I didn't even make the Final Four. So again, nothing is ever to be expected there. But I do think that they are the hands down favorite. Now, the way I did the championship projections is, right, the first thing I always do is I look at the extreme teams. All right. And I toss out the extreme teams when it comes to the championship. Never in history has an extreme team won an NCAA championship. Now, what am I talking about with an extreme team? Anybody that follows college basketball knows about Ken Pomeroy, right? Ken Pomeroy is the stats guru, the most lauded, respected site out there. He ranks teams adjusted offense, adjusted defense, and the teams that have that are very high in one category in the top 10 and outside the top 50 in the other are what you call an extreme team. All right. So either top 10 in adjusted offense or top 10 in adjusted defense, and outside the top 50 in the other category. All right. There's quite a few teams that fit that mold this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's actually 8 of them. All right. And all of these teams you throw out right away, because not one extreme team in history. There's been 167 extreme teams, 167, write that down, since 2002. Not one, zero, have won the NCAA championship. So the extreme teams this year, Iowa State, 55th in adjusted offense, first in adjusted defense. Now, they're going to get a lot of attention. There's going to be a lot of people putting them in the Final Four because of what they just did to Houston. But this is an Iowa State team that tends to struggle shooting the basketball. That was their undoing last year. Great defensive team, but didn't have such a glowing record against quad one opponents. I know, obviously, again, what they did to Houston was impressive, but they are an extreme team. I'm tossing them out. Remember, when you do these bracket pools, you have to go with the trends. You have to go with the numbers. That's the best method to do this. And what's allowed me to finish so high in the ESPN bracket challenge twice. So you toss Iowa State, you toss Illinois. Here's another hot team, right? Illinois coming in hot. They won their conference tournament. They have just unbelievable talent on that team with Shannon, who's going to be an absolute star in the NBA. They are an extreme team. They are number 3 in adjusted offense, 93 in adjusted defense. That is a horrid number on defensively for Illinois. So Illinois is absolutely a toss out, no questions asked. Like you can't even think about picking Illinois to go to win it all. Terrence Shannon Jr., of course, is the star there, but that they are an extreme team. Then you have Alabama. Alabama can light it up. They are number 2 in the NCAA in adjusted offense. They can all show 5 of these guys that they put out there on the floor can shoot. They can put up points with the best of them. But they're finishing in a very bad way. They've lost 4 of their last 6 games. And their defense is comically inept. They are 112 adjusted defense in the entire NCAA. So 112 adjusted defense. That is a major, major extreme team that you toss out. They're not winning it. Baylor. So Baylor's going to get attention, right? So they are 6th in adjusted offense. They are 64th in adjusted defense. This is not a good defensive team by any means. So Baylor, who has I know they've won the one championship. They have a history under their coach there of going out early in the tournament. Michigan State, nobody's picking Michigan State to win it all, but they are an extreme team, 57th in adjusted offense, 8th in adjusted defense. San Diego State, who got to the finals surprisingly last year, they're an extreme team, 62nd in adjusted offense, 9th in adjusted defense. Kentucky, here's a big one. Kentucky. I have seen so many pundits all in on Kentucky. Kentucky is the chic, wise guy pick to come out of their region, to knock off Houston or knock off Marquette and come out of their region, out of the South region. I'm not buying it. Okay. This team is loaded with McDonald's All-Americans. They're 5th in the country in adjusted offense, but they're 108th. This is Alabama territory, 108 in adjusted defense. Pathetic. Kentucky can't guard anybody. They were one and done in their conference tournament. Not impressed with them. But again, they have so much talent. They shoot the three arguably better than any team in this tournament. Like, they can light it up. They got, I think, 4 or 5 McDonald's All-Americans on this team, but they don't play a lick of defense. That will get you exposed at some point. Kentucky is a throwout to win it all. And then finally, Kansas, who's limping into the tournament, 65th in adjusted offense, 10th in adjusted defense. Hunter Dickinson is hurt. Kevin McCullough as well. So not sure what their status is for the tournament, but Kansas is a throwout as well, and they weren't going to win it anymore. And anyway, so just to rehash, these are your throwouts, the extreme team throwouts: Iowa State, Illinois, Alabama, Baylor, Michigan State, San Diego State, Kentucky, Kansas. Throw them all out. They're all out. So right off the bat, you have trimmed all those teams, okay? The next thing I always do when coming up with the champion is to toss out those teams who who come in off of losing their first conference tournament game. All right, so losing the first conference tournament game is always a big deal. All right, no team in NCAA history. This is another one. No team in NCAA history has won the tournament off of losing their first conference tournament game. Not one. And there's 5 teams who did it, and these are all big names. Kentucky. So Kentucky not only is an extreme team, which is an automatic toss-out, but they have the double whammy of also losing their first conference tournament game. Duke. I didn't think Duke was winning at all, even before they lost their first conference title game. Jeremy Roach is not playing well. I have questions about whether John Shire can successfully navigate an NCAA tournament, but they lost their first conference game. They're a toss-out for me. Kansas, another double whammy, like Kentucky. 2 blue blood programs. Kansas lost their first conference tournament games. They're a throwout. Creighton. So Creighton is the one team on this list that, I don't think Creighton's going to win it all. But, and it's losing your first conference tournament game is a big negative as well, even to get to the Final Four. I'm going to keep it open on Creighton just because Creighton is incredibly talented. Again, not to win it all. I'm tossing them to win it all, but at least for the Final Four. But we'll talk about that. And then finally, Tennessee. So Tennessee has made a habit, like with Rick Barnes, like with Purdue and Matt Painter, of losing early or relatively early in the tournament, losing to teams that are seated lower than them. Tennessee lost their first tournament, which was shocking to me. But then again, not really, because Rick Barnes tends to do this. Like, he doesn't win in the tournament. As a matter of fact, they have so much talent on this team this time around. They can actually shoot the ball that if they don't get to at least the Elite Eight, I think Rick Barnes could be fired. So Tennessee, Creighton, Kansas, Duke, and Kentucky. Again, we already tossed out Kentucky and Kansas. These teams are throwouts to win it all. So we have already worked it down to just a handful of teams, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 8 teams left over after this. And one of them is Gonzaga. And let's face it, Gonzaga is not winning the tournament. So we're going to toss Gonzaga as well. And that leaves us with Marquette, North Carolina, Arizona, Auburn, Purdue, UConn, and Houston. All of those teams are left in terms of possibly winning the NCAA tournament. So now what I did was there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 15 systems I use to come up with the best bet for the national champion. And now we only have 7 teams left to discuss, so this should go relatively quickly. The first is finishing in the top 20 for Ken Pomeroy. All right. These are all pre-tournament numbers, of course. Going into the tournament, top 20 overall in Ken Pomeroy's rankings. So 20 of the last 21 NCAA tournament champions started the tournament top 20 in Ken Pomeroy's rankings. Now remember, you're writing these names down. You're writing Houston, Connecticut, Purdue, Auburn, Arizona, North Carolina, and Marquette. These are all the teams that you're writing down as the 7 possible teams that could win it all. All right. And you're putting a check mark next to who qualifies. Top 20, Ken Pomeroy, 20 of the last 21 national champions. Each one of those teams, all 7 top 20 going in. So that's a wash there. We don't have to do anything there. Another big trend. Top 25 in adjusted offense. All right. Adjusted offense is a big deal. All right. 20 of the last 21 all 21. 21 of the last 21 national champions went into the tournament in the top 25 in adjusted offense. Every one of them. Again, all 7 of these teams, Houston, Connecticut, Purdue, Auburn, Arizona, North Carolina, and Marquette qualify. So all 7 of these teams are 2 for 2. All right. Now the next one, I'm not as heavy into this one. I take a little bit of, I don't pay as much attention to this one, but having a single digit in adjusted offense. So instead of being top 30, now it's single digit. If you have a single digit in adjusted offense going into the tournament, 16 of the last 21 have had a single digit in adjusted offense going into the tournament. All right, so 1 to 9. Let's see, so adjusted offense. So yes, all of these teams. Excuse me, I was looking at the different column. So again, let me just start again. So single digits in adjusted offense, 16 of the last 21 champions. Houston does not qualify. Okay, Houston does not qualify. They're not in the single digits in adjusted offense. Okay, they are 14th. Auburn. So Auburn, let me just pull out my Ken Pomeroy sheet too while I have it here. Auburn does not qualify either because they are number 10. All right, got my sheets here. So Auburn doesn't qualify, having the single digit adjusted offense. North Carolina does not qualify. They're 24th. All right. Marquette does not qualify. They're 21st. All right. So the only teams that qualify having a single digit adjusted offense are UConn, Purdue, Arizona, and that's it. Just those 3. All right. So we're starting to get a little bit of divergence now. Hey, Zamora, how are you? Fifth on Marvin Harrison. Yeah, this is the NCAA tournament stream today, Zamora, but I think Marvin Harrison is going 3rd to the Cardinals. The next one now. Top 40 adjusted defense. 20 of the last 21 teams that have won the tournaments. Hey, K Dizzle, how are you? 20 of the last 21 teams to win the NCAA tournament went into the tournament. Top 40 in adjusted defense. All right. Again, all 7 of these teams qualify. All right. So far, only UConn, Purdue, and Arizona have qualified for all 4. Purdue sucks. God bless the bracket. Yeah, Purdue. They have sucked historically. All right. The next one. This is system number 5. Top 20 in adjusted D or top 6 in adjusted O. 19 of the last 21 champions had either an adjusted defense in the top 20 or an adjusted offense in the top 6. All right. And once again, all of these teams qualify. All right. So you just put in a check mark next to all of them. All right. Top 20 in adjusted D, top 6 in adjusted O. All right. Here's one that's going to cause some division. Having an All-American on the roster. 42 of the last 46 champions had an McDonald's All-American on the roster. This time around, UConn has an All-American, Auburn, Arizona, and North Carolina. That's it. Houston does not. Purdue does not. Zach Edey was not McDonald's All-American, and Marquette does not. All right, so McDonald's All-American. UConn won it last year without having somebody, and so did Baylor a couple of years ago. Only 4 teams, though, out of 46 did not have a McDonald's All-American on their roster. All right, shooting 33% from 3. Every one of these teams do that, so we're not going to waste time on that. 35 of the last 35 champions shot 33% from three. That's a great stat. All of them qualify there. Now, if you extrapolate that to 35% from three, 22 of the last 23 champions finished at 35% from three going into the tournament. Houston and Marquette did not shoot 35% coming in. All right. So 35% from three. UConn qualifies, Purdue qualifies, Auburn qualifies, Arizona, North Carolina. Marquette does not, Houston does not. All right. 22 of the last 23 national champs shot 35%. All right. Having a Sweet 16, a coach that's gone to the Sweet 16. We're going to move this to a coach that has gone to the Elite Eight. Okay. Because every one of these teams has coaches that have gone to the Sweet 16. But going to the Elite Eight, you take out Arizona. Okay. Arizona coach has not gone to the Elite Eight. All right. So you could fix that number there. All right. Two more to go. Having reached the semifinals of their conference tournament. Okay. So this is a big one. All right. You have to at least reach the semis of your conference tournament. You don't have to win it. You don't even have to win in the semis, but you've got to reach the semifinals. All 38 of the last 38 national champions reached the semis. All 38. Great stat. All right. All of these teams did wind up making the semis. All right. And now finally, turnovers per offensive play. This is a big one too. You have to be in the top 110 in the country in turnovers per offensive play. And this makes sense. The more turnovers you have, the more likelihood you're going to get upset. 18 of the last 20 national champions were in the top 110 in turnovers per offensive play. Now, not everybody qualifies here, but Houston qualifies, Connecticut qualifies, Purdue does not qualify. Purdue's had some problems turning the ball over. Auburn qualifies, Arizona qualifies, North Carolina qualifies, Marquette, and Marquette also qualifies. Okay, so that's it. So now, with that said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right. Out of all of those systems, there's 15 of them. Remember, I tallied all of them up to get a composite number. We'll start with Houston. That's the first name I gave you. Houston qualifies for 12 of the 15 systems. Okay? Not great. Believe it or not, that's not a great number. Okay? Most teams that win it all are 14 or have 14 or 15. Houston's only qualified for 12, and it makes sense because they're just coming off getting their doors blown off by Iowa State. UConn, and this is no surprise, UConn 15 for 15. They qualify for all 15 metrics. This is why they're such an overwhelming favorite. Purdue, like Houston, only 12 out of 15. I have reservations again about this Purdue team. Zach Edey, who's barely an NBA prospect. I know he's big. He's an impossible guy to handle. The team struggles with turnovers. It's not an athletic backcourt. I still have concerns about them, and I don't like the coaching. All right, Auburn qualifies for 14 out of 15. This is a healthy number. Auburn's metrics are glowing. Like the Ken Pomeroy's of the world, he's they're fourth overall in Ken Pomeroy's metrics. They love Auburn. Problem with Auburn is, I believe they're 2-6 against quad one opponents. That's not a good number. They are a metrics darling, though. But a lot of times metric darlings tend to disappoint a little bit. But they are 14 out of 15. That's a healthy number. Arizona, 13 out of 15. Okay, they didn't have the coach that previously went to the Sweet 16. They did not reach the final of their conference tournament. So 13 for Arizona. North Carolina, 14 out of 15. I don't know what to think about this North Carolina team, honestly. I mean, they have Baycott, they got Davis. They got some good, very experienced players on this team. But for something just seems to be missing with North Carolina, but they qualify at 14 out of 15. That's a healthy number. Marquette, 11 out of 15. Tyler Kolek, if he's there, this is a team that could go to the Final Four, no questions asked. But we have to do a long audit on him, on Hunter Dickinson and McCullough with Kansas. Those are the big ones that we have to look at there. So again, UConn 15 out of 15, Auburn 14, North Carolina 14, 11. And if you want to know about Gonzaga, they would have qualified for 11 as well. Guys, it's UConn. UConn's the team, okay? If I'm going to be a wise guy, though, and pick another team to win it all, I'm not comfortable with Purdue. I'm definitely not comfortable with Arizona, even though their numbers are solid. I think I would have to go with North Carolina because they have two upperclassmen that are really good. One can rebound, the other can shoot. They can't get out of their own way sometimes offensively, but North Carolina would be the wise guy, I think. And if I'm going to go really crazy, I'd have to say Marquette because I love this Marquette team. I absolutely love this Marquette team, but I think it's going to be UConn for sure. So that's the lowdown on winning it all. Okay. And so now what we're going to do next is we're going to go through the contenders for Final Four. All right. For Final Four, I made this a much bigger list. All right. And this is where I think you could win it all this year or where the most likely avenue to win your bracket pool is. It's going to be in the Final Four. All right. Now, just like with winning the whole entire thing, you have to start off right away by eliminating some teams, all right, for the Final Four. And again, we come back to extreme teams, all right? And as far as the extreme teams and the Final Four is concerned, there have been 161. Write it down. And again, if you need to replay the stream later to get these numbers, make sure you do that. Since 2002, there have been 161 extreme teams. All right. And we already went over this. They're inside the top 10 in adjusted offense or defense, outside the top 50 in the other one. Only 4 of 161 extreme teams made the Final Four. Baylor. Another one. There's going to be a lot of Iowa States. There's going to be a lot of Kentucky. Maybe even Illinois as well, putting them in the Final Four. Throw them all out. We're not doing extreme teams. Here's another one. When you start out the season unranked, the Associated Press top 25, when you start the season unranked, but then you finish the AP top 25 in the top 10, there has never been a champion who did that. Never. Not one. So they started the year unranked, finished the regular season prior to the tournament top 10. No team has ever won the tournament, has never made the Final Four. All right. No team has ever made the Final Four and obviously winning the championship off this, trend. Auburn is the only team that qualifies here. Auburn season outside the AP top 25. Right now, I believe they're 7th overall. So they're top 10, and they started unranked. No team in NCAA history has ever done this. So there's a reason to also toss Auburn from the national championship picture, right? In addition to their poor quad one, Auburn is a toss out even to go to the Final Four. So right away, Final Four, we've tossed Auburn, we've tossed Kentucky, Michigan State, San Diego State, Kansas, Illinois, and Baylor. And those who are just coming in, you can always go back and see what I mean about all this. Now, let's start breaking some numbers down for the Final Four, all right? Either the regular season or conference tournament champion, all right? So you either had to be the regular season or conference tournament champion. Out of the last 24 teams to make the Final Four, 19 were either a regular season champ or a conference tournament champion, all right? The teams that qualified here are Houston, UConn, Purdue, Auburn, Tennessee, Arizona, North Carolina, St. Mary's, and That's it in terms of who we're keeping around. I mean, Illinois and Iowa State also did it, but we tossed them, remember? So just those teams. Now, if you're filling this out for the Final Four, this is who I have on the list before I go any further. Houston, as far as prospective Final Four teams, Houston, UConn, Purdue, Auburn. Well, excuse me, not Auburn now, because we tossed Auburn because of the Final Four. Tennessee, Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, BYU, Wisconsin, St. Mary's, Florida, Florida Atlantic, Texas Tech, and New Mexico. And we tossed Alabama too, because right. Now, four Final Four teams began the tournament top 20 in Canada's rankings. All right, so 72 of the last 84 Final Four teams. Only 12 missed. We started the tournament top 20 in Ken Pomeroy's rankings. And qualifying here is Houston, UConn, Purdue, Tennessee, Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, BYU, Wisconsin, St. Mary's, and that's it. That's it. All right. Now, top 20 adjusted offense or adjusted defense. So going into the tournament, either top 20 in adjusted offense or top 20 in adjusted defense. 78 of the last 80 Final Four teams had an adjusted offense in the top 20 or an adjusted defense in the top 20. 78 out of 84. So only 6 failed to get through to this with this trend. Teams that qualified here: Houston, UConn, Purdue, Tennessee, Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, BYU, Wisconsin, St. Mary's, Florida, Florida Atlantic, and that's it. All right. So again, keep marking them off as we go along. All right. So top 30 adjusted offense, 65 of the last 84. All right. So 65 qualified, 19 did not qualify. All right. For top 30 adjusted offense. All right. The teams that go into the tournament with a top 30 adjusted offense, and all these stats I give you are pre-tournament. Top 30 adjusted offense going in: Houston, UConn, Purdue, not Tennessee, Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, BYU, Wisconsin, not St. Mary's, Florida Atlantic, Texas Tech, and that's it. Okay. All right, next. This is now top 50 adjusted D. 77 of 84 have had went into the tournament with a top 50 adjusted defense. So 77 out of 84. That's, again, only 7 miss. That's a crazy good number. The teams that qualify with a top 50 adjusted defense, all right? Houston, UConn, Purdue, Tennessee, Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, BYU, Wisconsin, St. Mary's, not Florida Atlantic, Texas Tech, and New Mexico. Okay. Next one, winning against the spread record. So 46 of the last 56 Final Four teams went into the tournament with a winning against the spread record. Right? 46 did, 10 didn't. Houston does not qualify here. They had a losing against the spread record. UConn qualifies. Purdue qualifies. Tennessee qualifies. Arizona qualifies. Duke qualifies. North Carolina qualifies. Creighton qualifies. Marquette qualifies. Gonzaga does not qualify. BYU qualifies. Wisconsin does not. St. Mary's qualifies. Florida does not. Florida Atlantic does not. Texas Tech does not. New Mexico does. All right. Now, the extreme teams, we already talked about the extreme teams. I gave a check mark to the non-extreme teams, okay? Teams that are balanced. The teams that got a check mark for being an extreme team, and this is just part of the tallying. Houston, UConn, these are balanced teams that get a check. Houston, UConn, Purdue, Tennessee, Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, BYU, not Kentucky. Remember, we tossed them out. Wisconsin qualifies, not Michigan State. St. Mary's qualifies, not San Diego State, not Kansas. Remember, we're throwing them out of the Final Four. Florida qualifies, not Illinois, not Baylor. Florida Atlantic qualifies. Iowa State does not. Texas Tech qualifies. Alabama did not. And New Mexico qualifies. All right, I know this is a lot. We're getting through it. All right. 90% of the Final Four teams since 2001 won 24 games. So went in with 24 wins. That's a big one, 90%. Going in with 24 wins, Houston, Connecticut, Purdue, Tennessee, Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, not Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, not BYU, not Wisconsin. St. Mary's qualifies. Florida qualifies. Florida Atlantic qualifies. Texas Tech does not. New Mexico does. All right. Okay, we talked about Auburn. You throw them out because they finished top 10 after being in the AP top 25 after not being ranked prior to the start of the season. All right, so won a conference tournament game. All right. So just simply winning a conference tournament game. All right. So teams that reached out of the last 99 teams that did not win a conference tournament game, only 4 reached the Final Four. Just 4. So teams that won a conference tournament game: Houston, UConn, Purdue, not Tennessee, Arizona, not Duke, North Carolina, not Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, BYU, Wisconsin, St. Mary's, Florida, Baylor. Excuse me, we're not using Baylor. Florida Atlantic, Texas Tech, and New Mexico. All right. Top 20 in nerd. And what I mean by nerd, this is another, in addition to Ken Pomeroy, there is another website that's pretty, that I don't remember what the title of their site is, but they use what's called Nerd. And it's a very popular site. Here it is. Hold on. I don't remember the name of this site, but the NERD. Oh, Number Fire. Number Fire is the name of the website. And they've gotten quite a bit of following as well over the years because they've been fairly accurate on predicting Final Four teams. So going into the tournament, their top 20, not Ken Pomeroy, their Number Fire, their top 20, almost. And last year they had Florida Atlantic, they had San Diego State, and they had UConn. So they got 3 of the Final Four teams last year right when hardly anybody did. So top 20 in Number Fire, qualifying here: Houston, UConn, Purdue, Tennessee, Arizona, Duke, North Carolina, Creighton, Marquette, Gonzaga, BYU. Everybody else does not qualify. So no Wisconsin, no St. Mary's. Last one, top 100 in all of college basketball and field goal percentage. Qualifying is UConn, Purdue. Tennessee does not. Arizona qualifies. Duke qualifies. North Carolina does not. Creighton qualifies. Marquette qualifies. Gonzaga qualifies. BYU qualifies. Wisconsin qualifies. St. Mary's qualifies. Florida does not qualify. Florida Atlantic does not qualify. Texas Tech does not qualify. And New Mexico does. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 systems that indicate ability to get to the Final Four. Okay. Yeah, Zach, everybody's pretty much picking UConn. So we just talked about 11 Final Four indicators, the most potent indicators to get to the Final Four. All right. Now, I've tallied all these up. I'm going to go through them each one at a time. So Houston qualifies for 9 out of the 11 to get to the Final Four, the 9 of the 11 systems. UConn, all 11. Again, no shock. They qualified for all 15 for the national championship that we worked on earlier. 11 for 11 with the Final Four. Purdue qualifies for all 11, believe it or not. So while we didn't like them to win it all, because they dropped off there with their number to win it all, and to get to the Final Four, they're 11 for 11 in these systems. Now, Auburn, I'm just going to say this about Auburn. Auburn did qualify in all 11 of these, but they had the one gigantic negative that's not included here, where you start the season unranked and then you the AP in the AP top 10. No team ever gone to the Final Four with that. All right. And they would have to get through UConn as well. Tennessee, 8 out of 11. Arizona, 11 out of 11. I'm not a huge fan of this Arizona team, but they're hitting all the metrics. Duke, 9 for 11. North Carolina, 10 for 11. Creighton, only 8 out of 11. Marquette, 10 for 11. So Marquette looks very strong to get to the Final Four. Gonzaga, 9 out of 11. But I don't think anybody thinks they're going to the Final Four. BYU, 9 for 11. I like this BYU team. Kentucky, just talking about Kentucky, they qualify for only 5 of these 11 systems to get to the Final Four. And of course, they're an extreme team. Extreme teams, only 4 out of 167 extreme teams made the Final Four, and they are one of them. We tossed them out. Wisconsin, they qualify for 7 of the 11. Michigan State, 6 out of the 11. St. Mary's, 9 out of the 11. The St. Mary's team is good. They slow you down and great defensively. San Diego State, only 4 of the 11. Did they hit these systems? You're going to toss them out. Kansas, only 3. Only 3. So even if they get, Dickinson and McCullough back, I mean, their metrics are terrible. Florida, 5 for 11. They just lost their center to a broken leg. Illinois, they're an extreme team as well. 7 of 11. Baylor, another extreme team, 6 out of 11. Florida Atlantic, only 5 for 11. I don't see them going back. Another extreme team, Iowa State, only qualifies 8 of 11. Texas Tech, 4 out of 11. Anybody was wondering about Nebraska, they only qualified 4 out of 11. Alabama, 5 out of 11. Another extreme team. But get this, New Mexico, bracket buster. They qualify for 8 of 11. So UConn, Purdue, Arizona, all 11 for 11. Okay? Auburn as well, but we toss them for 2 different reasons. And then you have NC and Marquette with 10. So you could build a Final Four with the teams that are either 11 for 11 or 10 for 11. You could put Houston and Marquette in the South. You could put Marquette in the South. You could put Purdue in the Midwest. You could put UConn, obviously, in the East. And you could put Arizona. All right? So, out in the West. So, you could have UConn a 1, Arizona a 2, Marquette a 2, and Purdue a 1 as your Final Four. And that would be a plausible Final Four. So, that would be my best. Or you could even, North Carolina, guys, 10 out of 11. And I'm not loving Arizona, but you could put North Carolina in there as well if you wanted to. So there's your Final Four. system. I hope this. All right. Now, next, I'm going to talk about picking upsets because this is where we really got to zone on things. And I'm telling you guys right now, New Mexico is a team that's going to bust brackets. All right. All right. Let me see here. All right. So only 8 of 61 teams that were seeded 11 or lower that pulled an upset in round 1 were ranked outside KenPom's top 100. So a lot of the upsets, they came within 100, 1 to 100 for KenPom or I going into the tournament. So there have been 61 upsets for an 11 seed or lower. All right. Only 8 of them were teams ranked outside 100. So the teams going into this that are ranked outside the 100, those are the ones that you're going to want to avoid. All right. So let me pull up my Ken Pomeroy sheet so we can talk about the teams that are ranked outside. St. Peter's is one of them. You're not going to use St. Peter's. So teams that are ranked outside 100. So these are the teams you could pretty much throw out in terms of upsets. I mean, 1 or 2 of them are probably, are capable of doing it. You have Vermont at 104. I don't see them springing upset. UAB at 106. That's possible against San Diego State because the Mountain West has been terrible in this tournament. Morehead State 111. You could toss them. Akron 116. Western Kentucky 132. South Dakota State 134. Oakland 137. These teams are not going to, based on these trends, are not going to upset in the first round. Okay. All right. Mid-majors with a top 5 seed from 2012 onward, 6 of those 16 teams got upset in round 1. Okay. So, if you're San Diego State, you got to be a little bit nervous there. 6 out of 16, all right, that were ranked 5 and higher from a non-power conference went down in round 1. So I'd be a little worried about San Diego State. All right. And San Diego State doesn't, they don't score very well. All right. All right. We don't have to do the number 1 seeds being upset because there's no extreme teams in the 1 and 2 line. All right. Yes. All right. So first time appearance in the tournament. Out of 99 teams to make their debut in the tournament, only 6 won a game. So Grambling and Stetson, first timers this year, throw them out. All right. We knew neither one of them was going to win anyway. All right. All right. So losing conference records. So a losing conference record since 1985. 53 teams have received an at-large bid despite having a losing conference record. Of the 53, 27 won a first-round game, but only 8 of the 53 reached the Sweet 16. So really one and done. All right. That's Mississippi State this year. Mississippi State is the only team coming in to get an at-large bid with a losing conference record. All right. So Mississippi State is somebody that, if you want to pick them to win 1 game, okay, but they're not going to go beyond round 1 based on that trend. I should keep this stupid bracket in front of me. I keep putting it away because I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, here it is. All right. So Mississippi State. Mississippi State plays Michigan State. So even if they get by Michigan State, which I think Michigan State will win that game, they have North Carolina next. They're going to lose. All right. All right. What else? All right. There's that one. I have a lot of papers here, guys. All right. First round favorites that are between 1 and 3 points are 54 and 59 in round 1. Okay. 54 and 59 in round 1. So first round favorites between 1 and 3 points are 54 and 51 in round 1. That's not great. So let's take a look at that. So right now, first round favorites between 1 and 3. Colorado 2.5 over Boise State. That's the first 4. Michigan State over Mississippi State, right? South Carolina, Oregon, Nevada, Dayton. So these are all teams that you're going to have to look at there. During the last 10 tournaments, first round favorites of 13.5 or more are 82 and 9. So last 10 tournaments, first round favorites 13.5 or more are 82 and 9. So don't get cute if that spread is above is 13.5 or more. Number 3 seeds are 21 and 1 the last 22 games in the NCAA tournament. In the 6 versus 11 matchup since 2001, where the number 6 seed is the underdog, so this is a sucker bet, they're 4 and 11. Because when Vegas puts the 6 seed as the underdog, they're basically begging people to pick, like, wow, the underdog? I'm going to bet him. Well, no, they're 4 and 11. It's a sucker bet. And then since 2011, 75% of the upsets, the lower seed had the higher rebound rate. All right, so higher rebound rate. UAB this year is strong rebounder rate. They take on San Diego State. That's one to keep an eye on. St. Peter's, Texas A&M, St. Mary's, and Florida are all teams with good rebounding rates. All right, so you want to keep that in mind as well. All right, so I gave you guys a lot of stuff, a lot to digest. I hope it was helpful. I would love nothing more than you guys coming on here telling me that you're going to win it all. Now, as far as the bracket is concerned, using all these systems we talked about, in terms of the Final Four, because that's where the money is made, in the South region, Marquette has the best Final Four grade of anybody. And if they get Tyler Collette back, I think that they're the team that's going to come out. I have no faith in Kentucky at 3. I have no faith in Duke at 4. All right. I think Wisconsin at 5 could lose to James Madison in round 1. Houston at 1. Even their Final Four metrics, not that great either. They don't shoot the ball well. 9 for 11 is not awful, but Marquette, there's 10 for 11. So you could either go Houston or Marquette here. And as far as bracket buster, I do like James Madison to beat Wisconsin. I think Texas Tech will knock off NC State. NC State, they spent all of their energy in the tournament, in their conference tournament. But I do think Texas Tech could be a real threat to Kentucky the next round there. All right, the Midwest, I can't go Kansas because of all the injuries. I like Creighton a lot. I don't trust Rick Barnes. Their Final Four, 8 out of 11, not great. But Creighton, same thing, was 8. Purdue, I think Purdue is the Final Four team to come out here. As much as I can't stand, I'm either gonna go Creighton because they're so well coached, and I think Kalkbrenner is the one player that can square up against Edey. So I'm gonna go Creighton or Purdue, but the metrics say go Purdue. So then you'd have Marquette and Purdue. In the East, it's UConn all the way. I think Auburn could put a scare into them. I like Florida Atlantic over Northwestern. I like BYU. I like this Drake will knock off Washington State. Iowa State, Drake could beat Iowa State as well. I don't like Iowa State. I think BYU could get past Iowa State. And I have UConn going to the Final Four. And then in the West, North Carolina, I think Michigan State will play them tough in the next round. St. Mary's is a team I like a lot. Alabama, they should get past Charleston, but I think St. Mary's will slow them down and give them a lot of fits. So I like St. Mary's to beat Alabama. I won't even call that an upset. I think St. Mary's can even beat North Carolina, but I do have North Carolina beating them. New Mexico, guys, is the bracket buster for me. I have them beating Clemson. I have them beating Baylor. Okay? Nevada, Dayton's a coin flip. Arizona, I think, will come out of this taking on North Carolina, and then it's either NC or Arizona. North Carolina, both North Carolina and Arizona are flawed teams. North Carolina does not shoot it that great. Bake's going to make his free throws at the end. Arizona's got a lot of talent, but they're not well coached. They bombed out last year. They should have went out in the round of 32 the year before. TCU got screwed. So I would have either NC or Arizona coming out of there. So, plausibly you could have a 2 in Arizona, a 1 in UConn, a 2 in Marquette, and a 1 in Purdue. And then I would put UConn against either Marquette or Purdue in the final, with UConn winning it. I want to put Creighton in that Final Four, but losing the first game of the tournament is a big negative for Creighton. I don't trust Rick Barnes to get a team to the Final Four. Creighton, what was the other thing about Creighton that I didn't like? I think Creighton is so talented, though. They've always been good for me, Creighton, when I take Creighton in the past. But I'm just not. They just have some trends going against them that I'm not a fan of. They're not a regular season or conference champ. That was the negative for them. They didn't win 90%. They didn't win 24 games. 90% of Final Four teams won 24 games. They didn't win a conference tournament game either. So, I mean, those are all negatives for me when it comes to Creighton Final Four. So there you have it, guys. UConn's my winner. And like I said, if I'm going to pick another one, I'll pick Marquette just to be a wise guy. But that's how I'm seeing it. I like to hear what everybody's Final Four is. If you want to post in the message board there, share this out. Watch as many times as you want to go back and get the numbers down. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Back to fantasy football after today. Again, thanks for tuning in. We will talk soon, guys.